Of your previous videos, you mentioned that you looked into self-storage. Um, for me, I feel like self-storage is like the most ideal asset class for someone who's out of state. Um, so if you could, kind of explain why you decided to do multifamily over self-storage and what kind of challenges you had acquiring self-storage.
Yeah, before I answer that, I'm just curious, why do you think self-storage is the most ideal for you? I'm just curious as to the context behind that before I answer.
Yeah, so I've been looking into self-storage for about 6 months. For me, I feel like self-storage is the asset class where you can kind of maximize technology, and it doesn't involve water. Um, so there's less, things that can go wrong. I currently have 3 properties and 5 tenants, but I feel like the water is like the biggest issue. Anything related to water, it just costs a lot. So that's why I think self-storage is like the ideal asset class for someone who has W-2 job and also is out of state.
Got it. Um, yeah, so some background, my knowledge of self-storage. So pretty much the mentorship program that I was part of, their big three was pretty much apartments, mobile home park, and then self-storage,
Okay.
right? And why these three was because they are recession resistant, right? So the mindset behind it is, for apartments, you always need a place to live, right?
Yeah.
So whether it's a single family home or an apartment, you need a place to live. So let's just say you're living at a single family home, or someone's living in a single family home, they need to downsize. You downsize to an apartment complex, right? So you go from a house to an A-class apartment. A-class people go to B-class, then B-class will go to C-class, and then C-class will go to a mobile home park. And then mobile home park, we can't afford that, then you're borderline homeless at that point. So with that being said, that's what drew me to apartments. Like, I do C-class apartments right now, if you watch all my videos.
Yep.
And I had a mobile home park that I did as well, and pretty transparent, I lost money on that deal. I sold it for a loss, but pretty much I liked both because they were recession resistant and it's affordable housing, quote unquote, right? Like, there is rental demand, not enough supply of housing. There's demand for housing, and we cannot build fast enough to meet the demand. That's the whole pitch for mobile home parks and apartment complexes. I will say I'm a little bit jaded towards mobile home parks, obviously, because I lost money on my deal. But if you watch my video, I talk about why I lost, because I bought in a bad area. Like that was pretty much, I bought in a bad area and I had bad property management, and you mix those two, like, of course, like, it's gonna fail. And also, it's a lot more work, right? So self-storage, I actually, after I got my mobile home park, I was actually sending out mailers to self-storage in Oklahoma. Got some leads, and what you said is correct, right? Like, it's no plumbing issues, right? So like, if the plumbing bursts, you don't get affected with tenants. And you can automate a lot of things, right? Like, what I was taught, I think it was like Easy Storage. There's a software called Easy Storage where you can automate a lot of the marketing, how to set dynamic pricing. You have to set that up, right? So as pharmacists, we're very system oriented. So it was definitely appealing to me. And the rationale behind self-storage being recession resistant was, if you have to downsize from a single family home to apartment, you're trying to store some of your stuff in storage. Or people buy too much junk, right? So you gotta store your junk in storage. People can park their RVs in storage. They can park their boats and stuff. Like, there's many things you can do with self-storage, and there's a lot of land you can build additional units. So that was kind of what I knew about it. So I will say it's definitely nicer in that way. There's no tenants, right? There's no toilets per se. If they don't pay you their rent or their monthly fee to use your self-storage, you just can, like, repo their stuff and sell it. Like, just put a lock on it, or they lose access to it, and then you can take their stuff and sell it, and then just clear it out and rent it out to another person, right? So that's the appeal to it. But see, because I listen to a lot of podcasts about self-storage. I read a book on Bigger Pockets about self-storage, and they always show the rosy part, which is what I hate. And that's what burned me in my mobile home park. You listen to any mobile home park podcast, I listen to all of them. It's all rosy, right? But once I bought my mobile home park, I was very humbled. Like, oh wait, it's not as rosy as I thought. So why I'm sharing that is I think there's a lot of things that aren't rosy about self-storage, but we're just not unaware of it because we've never done a deal ourselves. Right. And people pitching those deals, they're trying to raise money from you. So from my 30-foot view of never doing it, self-storage is a business, right? It's like running a business. You have to, you can automate a lot of things, right? Like you have a gate that opens based on a code, security cameras, automate it. That's great, but you can add more stuff. But on the flip side of the same coin, like it's easy to build a self-storage facility too. It's just 4 plates of sheet metal.
Yep.
So like, if it's that easy, what's to stop someone from opening like right across from you? Right. And now your competition is there, newer facility, and you're kind of screwed at that point. So in that essence, I don't think it's as recession resistant as like kind of advertised. So that's kind of like my thought on it. But yes, the selling point of self-storage is always no tenants, toilets, and what was the last one? There's one more T. But basically no tenants and toilets. And then mobile home park was affordable housing. It's a cash cow. But I was humbled in my mobile home park. It wasn't a cash cow. It is affordable housing, but you're dealing with a lower demographic of people too. So it comes at a cost, right? Like these tenants will be more difficult. If they lose their job, they're not going to pay you. So that's the one thing I would caution on. But in terms of everything else, like it's just like multifamily, mobile home parks, self-storage, you can find ways to bring value. You can raise the net operating income, they'll raise the value, right? But to me, I just don't like the fact that I think you always need a place to live. You don't always need a place to store your junk. So because of that, I lean heavily towards residential real estate for that, single families and then my apartments. But I think self-storage, just like you said, it's so easy to develop a new facility, like right across the street at low cost. Like what's your construction cost to build a brand new facility today versus building in a brand new apartment complex today? Right? Like I bought my apartment complex for $500,000. I put in $300K. I'm all in for 800. But if I were to build a 26 unit apartment complex today at 2023 standards, it's going to cost like probably $2 million plus to build it. For self-storage, I don't really know how much it's going to cost to build self-storage, but I imagine it's much cheaper, right? It's just literally 4 sheets of metal. And so I like buying in that delta, right? Like I'm buying it at a low cost basis, but to build it brand new, it costs way more. And I feel like you lose that margin with self-storage. So that's kind of my 2 cents. But like you said, I don't own self-storage, so take it with a grain of salt. I would really ask somebody that actually owns self-storage themselves and is not part of a syndication group.
I see. Yeah, I think you brought up a really good point. And like you said, that's a lot of things are not discussed on Bigger Pockets or in the book they publish.
Yes.
Yeah, I completely agree with you, and I think it's really easy to build a self-storage if you can figure out the zoning and all the nitty-gritty parts. But I feel like competition isn't really a challenge right now because many companies they have a list of people who are willing to use their self-storage. Like in my neighborhood, on the main road, we have about 10 facilities.
Wow.
Within like 3-4 miles, which is crazy. Yeah, but yeah, I didn't think about competition parts because that's not discussed commonly when it comes to self-storage.
Because Because imagine you buy like for me, right? I had access to like mom and pop self-storage deals. That's the whole selling point. Like where you can do creative financing, low money down, or you can buy with margin, right? Because maybe they haven't raised storage rents in a while. Maybe they didn't automate things, right? And they didn't really advertise. It was more of like word of mouth, right? So that's the value that you would bring, right? For example,
Yeah.
or maybe if there's like an opportunity to build units that's climate controlled, then you can have the lender give you that money to build it and add more value, right? That's what a lot of the other students were doing as part of the mentorship I was part of. Or like you can even buy like a storage, you know, those like metal shipping containers, those big on the boats. You can split that in half, make it into 2 storage lockers, and it's very low cost, right?
Yeah.
There's a lot of creative things you can do with that, but you know, like I said, it's hard to compete if like public storage were to build right across the street from you, right? And I remember listening to one podcast where a guy he was young and he made billions off of self storage, but he made money because he would build. So he'd raise money to basically fund development of self storage, but then he would then hire his own company that he owned, which built self storage.
I see.
He made more of his money by building the self storage because he was vertically integrated, right? So he had his own construction company in house, his own management company in house. So he was making money not necessarily from the asset, but more from like building it and managing it. So to me, it was just kind of like, if you go that approach, I think it's good, but like a 1 or 2 off, like I'm just trying to imagine me owning it now. Like the moment I got my mobile park and I got burned, I was like, I'm not deviating at all from apartments, right? Because apartments are so simple and housing is needed, right? But self-storage, I just got turned away because like just owning a couple of those, and you know, if let's just say the automation doesn't go well, then you're gonna have to hire employees to be there, and there's not many third-party operators for self-storage. Like I had a hard time. I can't just fire my property manager and I have 10 lined up, right? Apartments I do. Like I can fire my property manager for my apartment and I have 3 lined up. And even selling my mobile home park, it took a lot longer to sell my mobile home park than if I were to sell any of my residential real estate, right? So that's just something that people don't think about either too, is like if you do a niche asset, it's gonna be harder to have an exit strategy if you want to sell it. Like if push comes to shove and you're pushed into a corner like I was and you want to sell it, it took me 12 months to sell my mobile home park and I was bleeding $10,000 a month on that deal.
Wow.
Right? So, you know, pharmacist side of me is just like worst case scenario, super skeptical. So I'm just like, you versus any of my apartments, I can put it on LoopNet right now. I'll get multiple. I get offers without even advertising my apartments, but my mobile home park, no one ever came to me. It was just like, hey, like I want to buy this from you off market. So just some things to consider, you know, as you go through your risk and benefit. But you may have an unfair advantage in self-storage I don't know about. So if that's the case, then, but just something you have to look at things both sides, because what you hear in podcasts, they just get you excited about it, but it's not realistic at all.
Right. Yeah. And that's another challenge with the commercial properties. It's really hard to meet owners. Like residential properties, you know, realtors they want to, you know, schedule meetups to attract people. But with the commercial, it's just really hard to find any group that's willing to share information. And that's one of the reasons why I found your YouTube was great, because you share your honest experience, which not many, you know, forums do. So I really appreciate all the videos you have uploaded. Those have been really helpful.
Yeah, no, thanks for sharing that. That's what inspired me, to be honest, to create this channel. Because like I listen to a lot of podcasts, right? I love self-education. You know, I used to listen to Bigger Pockets a lot, and I stopped now because I'm just like, dude, they're not realistic at all. Like all they're trying to do is get you excited to buy real estate, but they don't give you at all the realistic expectations of what it's like to own. And I know because I own 90 units of real estate, right? Like, and I am doing A through Z. Like, it's just me, right? I don't have a team. It's just me managing. I dealt with acquisitions. I dealt with financing. I dealt with renovations. I dealt with stabilization. I dealt with picking property manager, right? I basically am coordinating A through Z. So I see all facets of it, right? But the people they bring on, they might be part of a team, but like, oh, this guy's just the marketing person. That's it. Or this person's just the operations person. That's it. And they give one tip, and just to a beginner, they're like, "Oh my god, you're so smart." But to like a seasoned operator like me, I'm like, "That's so basic." Like, you know, like you should know that, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
they're very good at getting you excited about doing real estate, but in terms of like the reality and the execution, I think it's too skewed, right? And I've been trying to get into bigger pockets for a while, and they don't even call me, and I own more real estate than most of those people on the channel. So that's why I just said, you know what, forget it. I'm just gonna create my own content and share my good, the bad, the ugly, and the truth. You know, I admit when I lose, I admit when I win, right? So it's full transparency. But if you look at a lot of those people, those brands, they don't talk about their losses at all, ever.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
But I know they lost. I know they lost. If you do real estate long enough, you have to lose.
Right.
So yeah, that's what I mean by like when the brand Turner guy was like, he said on a podcast, "Oh, I never lost on a deal." I was like, "You're lying, dude. Like, there's no way. You have to have lost on a deal. You're probably justifying in your mind somehow that it wasn't a loss, but it was a loss." You know what I mean? Like my mobile home park, I probably am going to break even because I'm carrying a note on it over 3 years. I'm going to get back my 60,000 I lost, but I still consider it a loss because my money's trapped. I can't do anything. I'm just waiting, right?
Yeah.
So it's not realistic, and like it's kind of counterintuitive because like I do have a mentorship program myself, but my content is so blunt and truthful that it kind of scares people away. But I'm just like, great, if I scare you away, like I did my job, because that means you weren't meant to do real estate.
Right.
And I saved you a lot of money, stress, and headache, because one deal can wipe you out, right?
Yeah.
Like, you know, I still work at W2, so if I lose 20K, that's like a year's salary of me slaving away, right?
Right.
So I tell them like, great, if I scare you away, good. That's my objective. I don't want, but if despite hearing all that, you still want to do it, then by all means, maybe you'll be up for it, right? So yeah, it's something to consider. But I was really into self-storage at one point. Like I thought I was gonna buy one of each, which is in retrospect, that's the stupidest thing, right? For me. Like I wanted self-storage, mobile home park, and and now
diversify.
Like, diversification, right? That's just a headache. I'm like, forget that. Just buy apartments in Oklahoma, and that's it, right? So yeah, that's kind of my 2 cents. I know you mentioned you own like, was it short-term rentals, long-term rentals, mid-term rentals, and
I do.
in Denver?
Yeah. So one of the reasons I started looking into commercial is because those properties require too much time. So I've a condo that's managed by a property manager because it's a Section 8 and it's in pretty rough neighborhood. It's doing okay, 5-6% cap. Then I have 2 up-down single-family house. I'm doing mid-term, long-term in one of them, and I'm doing short-term, long-term in the other one. Short-term, the market is changing quickly. Denver is very saturated. December has been the worst month in 2 years.
Wow.
My occupancy rate decreased by 60%, and I feel like everybody is experiencing the same. So I feel like I really need to start looking into different asset class and kind of scale up, so I don't have to compete with beginners basically.
Yeah. So are you cash flowing positive on all those assets, or are you kind of?
I'm cash flowing in all 3 assets.
Okay, so even though the short-term rental is not doing as well, like you're still
Cash flowing.
Still cash flowing, so just not as much cash flow as before.
Right. Yeah.
Okay, I mean, how much do you cash flow net per month?
I would say 2,000 from that long-term and short-term property.
Okay, so collectively you're around 2,000 to 3,000 a month.
Yeah.
Okay, and then how much equity have you built up in those properties?
Not much. So I bought those in the past 2 years.
Okay.
So I don't have much equity. Yeah.
But you got a good interest rate at least, right?
Right. Yeah.
Okay, I mean, Yeah, I mean, if you know my story, I basically cashed out refinance on my single family homes. I appreciated like crazy.
Yeah.
I bought in 2017 and 19 before COVID. And yeah, I basically pulled out all the money tax free, and I bought my apartment complexes in my mobile home park because I had so much equity. Like every single family home I bought in California, like appreciated about like $500,000 each. So you could, I mean, are you self-managing all this, or do you have a property manager for everything?
So I self-manage everything except for the condo.
Interesting.
Section 8. Yeah.
How come did you just outsource that one because it's in a rougher neighborhood?
Right. And that's what my realtor advised me to do, because she has 3 units in that area, and she's been having a lot of issues with tenants. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So the 2 that you self-manage, I mean, are you guys doing that for tax purposes?
No, because yeah, I know. I think you talked to, I don't remember his name, but he mentioned that he is having issue delegating work to outsourcing
Yeah.
to contractors. Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
having the same issue because everything is on YouTube. I feel like I can just spend a couple hours just do it myself instead of spending $100 $200. Um,
Oh, okay. So you're a
yeah,
DIY.
right. Yeah, and it's been challenging.
Yeah, like for me, like the fact that I live 1,000 miles away, you're forced to delegate. So,
Right,
versus like for you, you can just drive to your property, right? And like, oh,
right.
well, I could fix that, but obviously it limits your scale. I mean, I guess I was referring more towards like because you're actively managing your short-term rental, you're materially participating, right? So basically, the losses are active losses, which offset your active pharmacist income.
Right.
Right. So if you spend 500 hours on that short-term rental, which I'm sure you do if you're managing it, and you document those hours, you can offset your W-2 income, you know, your income or you and your wife's income. So that's why a lot of people do short-term rentals, right? Like for me, I only have passive losses, but I'm not materially participating in any of them. So they don't offset my W-2 income as a pharmacist. They just carry full